Security, escort this gentleman out, please.
Come on, Soda Pop, let's go. We're here with Jeff Barth, who is running for state senate in District 25. Thank you. I was going to say 22, so thank you for correcting me. Of course, Jeff is on the Minnehaha County Commission. He's been there since 2006. I'm reading this here. Tell us why you're running, Jeff, and a little bit about you besides what I just said.
Well, I'm running because I don't like the way things are being done in Pierre.
Mm-hmm.
You know, millions of dollars have been diverted and stolen, and there are people that are dead because of the problems they've got, and they refuse to look at it. I think it's time to open up our government a little bit. I'd like to see the legislature have the power of subpoena, the power to swear in witnesses, and I'd like to see the emails of high government officials become public also. It's funny that 30,000 or 35,000 Hillary Clinton emails are so darn important, but emails of our executive branch in Pierre have never been released.
Would you like to go a little bit on that? Would you like to see that filter to maybe all government in South Dakota? Maybe make this a blanket law to where I can get the emails of the city council or the county commission, or don't you think that, to be fair,
I think
all
that,
the way down?
I think that certainly, unless you're consulting with your doctor or your lawyer, that probably they all should be.
Yeah.
I mean, if I send a message to my fellow commissioners and then they send it back with comments, that's an illegal meeting. It's already been determined to be an illegal meeting. But you look at Chris Christie in New Jersey with the bridge gate out there, the emails are what's tripping him up. And with Richard Benda's passing, they claim that they destroyed all of his emails when he left the state employment.
I'm sure they did.
But did they destroy?
I'm sure they didn't.
Yeah.
Did they destroy all the emails from Governor Rounds to Richard Benda?
Yeah.
Did they destroy all the ones from the Secretary of Education to Mr. Westerhoos? It really bothers me that millions have been stolen, people are dead, and that they refuse to do anything about it until it's politically expedient.
Well, you bring up a great example, and I'm going to talk a little bit about maybe some of your objectives in legislature. Obviously, ethics is really big on your list here. I brought up a great example at the council last night. The city, I don't know if it was the landfill accounting department or just our accounting department, let a guy not pay his garbage fees, $250,000, and obviously their fault. One of the city attorneys testified about it, did admit it was their fault. So their solution was to charge bonds and make us all pay more money because they screwed up. And it's just like what you're saying about the Gear Up thing. Didn't they know all this stuff was going on? And it's like they knew, and now they're turning around and trying to blame everybody else for the things that they should have known about.
They knew in 2006 that there were accounting irregularities, and they did
10 years
nothing
ago.
about it. And in the meantime, Ronald Reagan said, "Trust but verify." The people we trust to verify in Pierre stole the money, and that's one of the things.
A lot of people stole the money in the Gear Up thing.
Yes.
There's a lot of people with their hands in that cookie jar. And there's probably a lot of people, I said to someone, there's probably a lot of people that got a lot of money that we'll never even hear about.
That's right. And, we had an embezzlement at the fairgrounds some years ago.
Yep, I remember this,
and people were angry at us for not catching them sooner.
And
And I said, if you'll just give me a list of all the other embezzlements going on right now, we'll stop those too. The thing is, when you catch them, you stop them.
Right.
And there are, I am sure, other operations going on that are also for personal profit.
And when government isn't transparent, I'll argue,
right.
You would argue the same as I do. When government isn't transparent, we don't know what's going on that's bad. A lot of people say, well, you're just being a conspiracy theorist. Well, if you're not telling the public what is going on, they're going to have theories. And they're going to make up theories.
Well, allow me to expand upon Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
Government of the people, for the people, by the people in front of the people. That's what we need to have.
Right.
And it's not in front of people, it's behind closed doors where decisions are made and then enacted in public, and I don't like it. That's probably my first priority and why I'm running.
Is there any other objectives you may have?
I would like
Because you've been there before, right?
Not in the legislature.
You haven't been in the legislature. Okay.
I've run, I've lost.
Okay.
I run fairly often because I trust me, and I sort of feel like if I don't do it, who's
Yeah.
going to do it? Who is going to do it if I don't do it?
Right.
Anyway, I would like to raise.
And I think you do have a really good chance this time. I have to agree with you that I think that
Well, send money is all I can say. Send money. Okay, going back to it though, as a county commissioner, I see what goes on here with our jail and with criminal justice. We're looking at, in the very near future, beginning a $45 million project to expand the jail. 100% of it paid for by property tax. I think liquor ought to pay part of it.
Right.
Half of it, a third of it, a quarter of it.
And liquor is our number one drug problem in our state. They would bring up meth, and that is an issue. But everyone has. There was an article. I think John Holt wrote an article about this. Was it alcohol is number one?
Darcy Jensen with Prairie View Prevention said she's not yet met anyone whose first drug was meth.
Right. Right. It's always alcohol.
Right. So I think that it's about time that alcohol begin to pay its way. And honestly, when they were trying to find the money to pay the teachers last year, I emailed Don Hager and said, raise the tax on liquor, use that money to pay the teachers. I would have voted for the governor's plan, but I would have preferred to raise the money elsewhere because I don't like to pay more for food, more for diapers. Not that I use diapers.
Yeah.
But
I don't either. Thank God.
Yet.
Well, you know what they say. You know what an old person smells like, don't you? It depends.
Well, going back to it,
we might have to cut that one.
I truly believe that I was at another forum recently with other legislative candidates, and they said, what can you do to find additional funding for education? And they're going, gosh, there's nothing we can do. That's baloney. Because they could raise taxes on alcohol, they could reduce the money that they stuff in their piggy bank. Why do we tax people more than we need? Why do we tax money and put it into a savings plan? And does it exist in that savings plan, or is it being diverted?
Well, yeah, the education trust fund is probably what you're talking about, and it's got almost $1 billion in it, and we never want to touch it. And
what is the state's reserve fund right now?
I'm not sure, but I know that every year they overestimate their spending and underestimate their revenue, and they put another $12 million into reserves. $12 million could make a big difference to schools.
I remember when they started having a reserve fund. I was in Pierre, and it was because when Knipe administration took over the government, we were flat broke. There wasn't any money and anywhere to go, and we couldn't pay for anything, and it was a struggle. And they decided to start setting aside a small percentage of the budget every year so that they had a little piggy bank somewhere to work with. And it was going to be like 20 million or 30 million, or in those days that was a lot of money compared to our current budget, and it's kind of gotten out of hand.
Well, it's out of hand when the state is broke and the cabinet members in state government are loaded. I don't like it.
Yeah, and I've often been a fan on all levels of government, that city, county, state, that we should always try to balance the books, for one, and for two, we should spend taxpayers' money. And in other words, if we're taking this money in, we should spend it. Government's not business. Business has to have reserve accounts. Business has to have this. Business has to. We need our roads fixed. We always know what we need done. We need criminal justice. We need to spend money on these things. And do you think in Pierre, there really needs to be a major overhaul of the way we're handling, I mean, you talked about it a little bit, but the way we're handling some of these reserve funds, some of the bids going out, the same people get the bid every year for some reason. That goes back to secrecy and transparency, of course, but do you really think that Pierre could really be shored up? I mean, it could be
I do.
tightened up a lot more.
Look, Scott, if Democrats were running things for 40 years, we'd have our problems. Republicans have been
Right.
running things for 40 years, and it's gotten out of hand. Look at Secretary Gantt. I mean, he couldn't even hold on to the state flag. But the fact is, things have gotten out of control. And I do believe that it's good to have two-party rule. I think it is good. It's nice to have McDonald's and Burger King.
Jason, I think, probably ate at both.
I thought that was the original pipeline.
Yeah.
But seriously, and then you wind up with weaker and weaker political hacks getting these jobs based only on their partisan association. I believe that there may become a time where I myself will be making errors of judgment as regards to corruption. But as of right now, I know I am square. I know I am not stealing money. I know no one is paying me off. And I can't say that's true for these people in Pierre.
Yeah, and I kind of brought this up with Eric too, and you were talking about it a little bit. And like you said, the Democrats could have been just as corrupt over the last 40 years too. Do you think the one-party control for so long in Pierre has caused this issue?
Absolutely. And also just the lack of ethics and in our community. I know that at the telephone company, we used to complain about the crook that ran the phone company. He took our stock from $65 down to $2, and eventually went to prison for a few years.
Yeah.
But we're complaining about him. Meanwhile, we're taking 40-minute coffee breaks when they're supposed to be 20. And we as a society, we all need to improve our ethics. And I am a sinner. I've done things that are not right. I try not to. Somebody said, Lord, I know I'm a sinner. I know I'm going to sin again, but please, Lord, don't let it be the same sin.
Yeah.
In any case, when that time comes, I hope I have the guts to follow my own motto and say, if the truth would kill me, let me die, and confront it head on and say, yes, I did do that, or as opposed to saying, no, I didn't, and when it's clearly the other way. But we need ethics, and we need. I would like to see our governor succeed. I know that's.
Oh, I agree with you, and I know you've said this before. I would like to see every elected official succeed.
Right.
And
Cindy Heiberger and I talked about this on the county commissioner. As a county commissioners, there are 5 of us. If we only had one opinion, what good would that be? It's good to have a couple of opinions. It's good to have a discussion. It's good that I didn't agree with every nickel we spent in this next year's budget. It's good that they didn't agree with everything. But you battle it out in good faith, and then you come up with the right answers. But the governor, he's trying to get Medicaid expansion. It would save people's lives. It would save the state money. It would save Minnehaha County money.
it would be an economic boost.
It would save Minnehaha County property taxpayers money. They won't do it because, and my opponent is one of the stalwarts holding the fort against the governor expanding Medicaid. And, I don't know if the people understand fully, but Obamacare subsidizes health care to a point. That point is when you get to 100% of the rate of poverty. So if you're making $20,000 as a single person, you get a subsidy for your health care. If you're making $15,000, you get a bigger subsidy. But if you make less than $11,000, you get no subsidy. You get no subsidy because you're supposed to be on Medicaid. And so those people without Medicaid are going to die. The hospitals are going to forgive them. The county is going to cover it. But too often people only show up at the hospital when they have a week to live. And that week is going to be expensive.
Yep. And change the subject here a little bit, but you touched on it a little bit. Do you think the Attorney General and the Secretary of State should be nonpartisan positions?
You know, it's clear that the Attorney General is a partisan, and I think he's a
What?
he's a very smart guy.
Yeah.
But you know, every time Obama does something, he jumps on it and sues them. I would just point out that the Attorney General for Nebraska is suing Colorado because of the infusion of marijuana into Nebraska. But why has our Attorney General done nothing about White Clay, Nebraska, which pumps 3.5–4 million cans of high alcohol beer into the Pine Ridge Reservation? Why has our Attorney General done nothing to protect our South Dakotans against fetal alcohol syndrome, liver disease, death? Meanwhile, he's ready to battle it, you know, using the full budget of his office.
So you're making the point that he is very partisan. But my question is, do you think they should be nonpartisan positions?
You know, I don't have an opinion at this moment.
You don't?
On
Okay.
that. I think that the people need to become more aware, and I wish that I wish that Marty Jackley had brought up the charges against Yoke Boland before they safely had elected Mike Rounds to the U.S. Senate.
Oh, it's totally yeah.
The whole plan before that was to blame everything on Richard Benda. And why haven't we released Richard Benda's autopsy? You know,
Because his teenage daughter doesn't want it released.
that's what they say.
I know.
But Trayvon Martin is dead, shot by Zimmerman down in Florida, and the next day it's out that he had marijuana in his system. He deserved to die, no question about it. Did they ask Trayvon's mother if they could put out that information? Trayvon's sister, his girlfriend, his father? No, they just put it out.
Do you support the initiative and referendum process?
Yes. But let me say also that I'm not sure I like the explanations that we wind up with on the ballot.
Yeah, and I mean, there's been a debate about that for quite a while. Who should write them? How should it be written? Should the petitioners get to look at them? I mean, we know from just doing a petition drive and being involved with the Snowgate and the swimming pool thing at Spellerberg, that there's different policies on who should write it, who should edit it, who should get to look at it, who gets to put their stamp on it. And maybe that's something you can in the legislature you guys could talk about.
I do believe that as a small state we are subject to manipulation by big bucks coming in from elsewhere.
Yep. Marcy's Law is a good example.
Marcy's Law. Grover Norquist had something a couple of years ago. I really regret that. And you know, one of the things that I have some disagreement with some of our leaders in the state on is in education, like where they talk about training people to be welders and stuff. That's good. But the number one issue we need to have with education is we need to train people to be citizens. They need to know how to read those things on the ballot and how to vote. They need to understand when they're being given a line of whatever and when they need to insist on more. You know, the lack of education in this state has paid off for the incumbent party. It should not continue to pay off.
Well, and it worries me a little bit. I touched on this when Eric was here. Randy Dauberpool put something on Facebook this afternoon, county employee, of course, you know Randy, and said that Bob Litz told him that the absentee is an average of 10 to 30 minutes people are spending voting. And I've always thought that absentee voters, because I'm one of them, are a little bit more educated because they know that, number one, they can study it a little bit, and then they're going to have a little bit more time to go in and vote. Does that worry you a little bit that there's going to be a lot of people voting on election day, and they're going to see this long line, and they're still going to stay in the line, but they're going to be so overwhelmed and they're going to be so pissed off that they had to wait for so long anyway, and then they're going to get up there and they're going to see this ballot, and they're not going to know half the frickin' things that are on there, and so they're just going to rush through it by reading the
citizens who we need people who are educated to become citizens, not just welders.
Right.
And I voted absentee already. I took a sample ballot.
I did too.
And I studied it. I went in there. I was out of there in 90 seconds.
Yeah, I was able to go through it fast. I always read them over though, just to make sure stuff doesn't get moved around. You know, because sometimes
Sure, I do read them over too. But I know you know, when I see Feinstein or whatever, or Barth on the ballot, I know who I'm thinking of.
One of the things that we learned in the Spellerberg pool hearing that we had in 2014 was, by law, the only thing that is required on the ballot is the bold name of the issue, and then the simple explanation of what a yes vote means and a no vote means. All the rest of that is just periphery that isn't required by law.
No.
Well, that Marcy's law has got, I don't know.
It's 19 pages long.
And I'm not gonna read it.
No.
I'm gonna rely on the fact that no attorney in the state, except the one that's been hired to be the mouthpiece, supports it.
And there's some that I actually voted no on, that I know that some other people wouldn't have voted, my friends and stuff wouldn't have voted no on, simply for the fact that I didn't understand it. I really didn't understand it. And I tell people this sometimes, and this may be not the greatest advice. If you're in the voting booth and you didn't study ahead of time and you really, really don't understand it,
Just vote
vote
for
no.
Barth.
Vote no. Because this way, you don't have a hand in passing something that may potentially be bad. I know you don't agree with me on that, but
I never tell people that. Don't vote.
Or
on that.
not vote.
Because
Yeah.
because if you vote no on everything
Yeah.
and you're going down through a referendum,
That means yes in some cases.
exactly,
Yeah,
because
sure,
of the
too.
way a referendum is done. So
Right.
when
The
they-
minimum wage is a good example.
the governor the other
You
day
want to
is-
vote no so that youth get
right.
paid the same. Yeah.
The governor the other day is saying vote no on all of these except this one.
Yeah.
Well then, what does that do on the
It's gonna be
referendums?
too
Correct.
It'll be too confusing for some people. But I would encourage people to vote early.
And often?
No, I'm not going to vote often, but I do believe that there's still time to get registered until the 24th,
Uh-huh.
and
Yep.
there's plenty of time to.
Plenty of time to education. You could sit down, I told someone, I said, you wouldn't have to know a damn thing about everything, if you've never even looked at the ballot before. And you could get out the ballot, and you could get out the Googles, and it'd probably take you a half hour to figure out how
Yeah.
you would vote. I mean, some people act like it's just so time consuming. Oh my God, I gotta take all this time to figure out Amendment V. And it's like,
Sure.
no, you don't. It's easy. There's one or the other. Either you agree with nonpartisan races, where everyone should be able to vote in the primaries, or you don't. It's not hard. It's real simple. It's just basically your opinion on how you feel about it. So, is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
No, I think that the county commission is really an important part of our government, and probably it's where the rubber meets the road. Nobody goes to City Hall to register to vote. Nobody goes there to pay your property taxes. City Hall is a ghost town compared to the county offices, which are swamped with citizens.
And we're building another ghost town to go next to
Well,
it.
we'll see. I think, the fact is that Chicago in 1870 was 100,000 people. In 1970, it was 3.5 million people. It's going to be used, just like our expanded jail is going to be used, whether sooner or later, the people in our community that cannot properly behave. And if you want to keep your taxes down, don't break the law. That will help. But I think that another aspect of it is, these buildings will be handed down into future generations. They spent a lot of money to build the cathedral. They spent a lot of money to build the old courthouse museum. And thank goodness we're moving forward with the courthouse museum's
archive building. Bob Colby brought that up at the council meeting last night.
I would say that when you think about Sioux Falls and our culture here, Hillary said it takes a village, right? People diss her for that. But the fact that it takes family, with hopefully both parents or two parents of whatever gender, the fact that you have schools, the fact you have churches or mosques or synagogues, the fact that you have arts events at the pavilion or at the Icon or whatever, the fact that you have a museum is part of how our culture is given to the small savages that we give birth to and raise to adulthood. and turn them into citizens. That's how we do it also with...
Or welders.
Or both, yeah. Or that's how we do it with our immigrants from foreign countries. You come here, you don't understand our culture, you learn.
Right.
And the museum and our history is a big part of it. And I'm so very happy to be here at this time when things are, again, taking another plodding step forward, because it's been on our agenda since 2008 when the Hall family donated that land. And I hope to see it, I hope not to be like Moses from Mount Nebo or whatever it was, looking down at the promised land, never to visit there. I'd like to see it done. Maybe Moses is Bob Colby.
Yeah. Just inform yourself before you go vote.
I think-
Or I like Bruce's advice. If you don't understand it, don't vote anything.
Or ask.
Or ask. Yeah.
Ask about it. I do think that sometimes our immigrant people know more about our history than we do.
They do. A lot of them do.
And,
They actually have to take a test.
Yeah.
yeah, to become a citizen,
Yeah.
and it costs them hundreds of dollars. Or else be one of them, be
Yeah.
Norwegian. And let me hope that as a Norwegian American, that if I ever do go to court, I don't get one of those Swedish judges, because I just know he won't be able to be fair to me.
I think we'll end it on that.
Thank
Now,
you, Jeff.
We gotta go over and meet Chelsea now.
Oh, good for you guys. I'm not going.
Y'all come back now. Cheers.
What kind of morons run this outfit?